I topped the cohort, then the next year studied half as much and did even better. Here's what I changed. So my experience in the first year was a bit what you'd expect. It was learn as much as possible, push yourself to the brink of burnout and hold it there for as long as possible and just grind and work hard. Then I tried to switch it up to prioritize learning the important stuff, spend most of your time at peak efficiency and then rest and recover after, and make studying as fun as possible. So today I'm going to run you through my whole system for learning a new topic, and I'll do it with an example of learning a medical condition, which is relevant for my own studies, but this can be expanded to any area, whether you're doing psychology, maths, engineering, law, or something completely outside of it, whether you're learning an instrument, for example, or learning a new sport. So the first thing I do is I try and do a deep dive and actually have to learn the information. And so for this, most places, a textbook is a good start, but I try and just make the step as quick as possible. So I probably check out some sort of summary online or get ChatGPT or Perplexity AI to write me a summary that fits with the note structure that I want. And I'm just after the bread and butter basics. So if I'm learning a new condition, in 6 lines, can I basically say, what is it, how does it present, how do you diagnose it, and how do you treat it? So let's take the example of pneumonia that I used in the last video. We can say pneumonia is an infection of the lung. It's most often, it can be bacterial or viral. How does it present? The key symptoms are fever, cough, chest pain, and some additional things you'd find on an exam would be dull percussion, coarse crackles, and increased vocal resonance. There's obviously all a bunch of other things, but if I can remember just that core, I've ruled in that condition and nothing else would fit with that, with all those criteria. The best way to diagnose it would be an X-ray, and there might be some additional tests, high white cells, high CRP. And you treat it with, and you can go through the whole framework, but the most important part of the treatment is antibiotics. Now, that's very superficial, right? But that's a good first layer to then learn. And so that's fairly easy. I can just basically get AI to write that, copy and paste it, put it on Notion, and put it under a toggle, pneumonia. And then so maybe later that day, I will try and go look through that and see what I can remember. Okay? What is it? How does it present? How can I diagnose it? How can I treat it? And if during that process, a couple of questions might naturally come up when you're learning this thing. So, why does someone get pneumonia? Or what differences are there if it's a bacterial pneumonia versus a viral pneumonia? What antibiotics do I use to treat pneumonia? And does that change? What other things do I use besides antibiotics? Let's say if it's viral pneumonia. And so you can follow your natural curiosity and just add those things in, because that will help you add on that second layer of information as well. But the core is the most important thing, and then maybe next time I'll go through it, I can then learn all the risk factors, the pathophysiology, all the complications. Then I'll try and do that for a bunch of conditions, and probably 4 times a year, so twice per semester, I'll then review those Notion toggles and see, was there anything I missed? So that's how I was reviewing the pneumonia toggle, and then I forgot that you need to use an X-ray to diagnose it. So anything I miss when I go through that Notion toggle, I then just copy and paste and put on Anki. And I always have some Ankis running, but anything I find which is good for specific details or things I miss from Notion that I want to cover more frequently, I put on the Anki. Because Notion I'll probably cover 3 or 4 times a year, but if it goes on the Anki, I'm going to see that at least 20 times before the exam. That's just how the algorithm works. So Anki I use to supplement everything I don't know from my Notion. So I might know the core stuff, but then everything on the outside that I forget when I review it just goes straight on the Anki. And then I'm pretty diligent with doing the Ankis every day. The next step is throughout this process to do lots of practice questions. So Anki, to make it as quick as possible, everything's just copy and pasted. My Notion notes are copy and pasted from AI or the web. And then if I want my Anki cards, they're just copy and pasted. So it'll be like pneumonia diagnosis as the front, and then whatever my notes are as the back of the card. And so everything should be quick and I want to get rid of all the administrative work in making notes and making Ankis. But the Ankis will help you memorize it one way. So they'll tell me, pneumonia symptoms, and then I can sort of list out, fever, cough, chest pain, etc. But then the questions will test it the other way. They'll say, someone comes in with fever, cough and chest pain, what's the diagnosis? And so then the Ankis will test it one way, but then the practice questions will test it the other way, and that'll help me recognize it when it comes up in an exam. So I try and do lots of practice questions. It's one of the sort of hidden sides, I think, of doing really well, is just do as many practice questions as you can, even before you feel like you're ready. And let's say if I get the practice question wrong, I just copy and paste it and put it on the Anki. And if I feel like I really am weak on that topic, then I will go and look at the notion again, and I might just put more of the notion on the Anki as well. So, let's say there's a question about anesthetics. I know, and I just don't remember much about anesthetics, so then I can go look at my notes, do all my toggles related to anesthetics, and whatever I don't remember, I can then just add on extra things to the Anki. So the way I think about it is anything that goes on the Anki, I'll remember, because I'll review it so frequently that by the time, and I can just put the settings so that it'll come up in the week before the exam as well. But then you have to be selective about what you want to put on the Anki. So it's just things that I sort of missed on a first learning. If I just put everything on the Anki, then it might be a bit too much. And I don't really like long Anki cards. I like quite short ones. That's just a personal preference. Right, so to review that, I do my initial learning, which is largely copy and pasting some notes and putting it on Notion. And on that day or shortly after, I'll try and review that actively, and then at spaced intervals across the year. Anything I don't remember from the Notion, I then copy and paste and put on Anki and review that card on Anki as per what the algorithm tells me. If you want to find Anki settings, just search up any video on Anki settings study and just customize that and use what someone else is doing. Then throughout the year, I'm doing lots and lots of practice questions to add a reverse sort of Anki framework and aid in active recall and spaced repetition. Now, common mistakes people make, I hear would be, I don't have enough time to make all these things. The earlier you start, the better it is. So I generally do start in the holidays and try and have all my copy and pasted Notion toggles done before the year starts, because I find if I know all the topics at the start of the year, then I have more time to do spaced repetition. Whereas if you learn as the year goes on, what you learn a term or 3 weeks before the exam is sort of more likely to be in the short-term memory than the long-term memory. So my aim is once I learn it once, right? Whatever I learn from third year, I should be able to implement in fourth year. And so it might seem tedious, but I also find I'm quite bored on the holidays, and just as little as 1 to 2 hours a day throughout the year is enough to make all these Notion cards, Ankis, and practice questions and get them all done. Remember, because I'm copy and pasting everything from the Notion to the Anki, that's actually very quick. It's like, you can think how easy, if I wanted to learn 10 conditions in a day, which is too much, I could literally just go on ChatGPT and say, fill out this table for me with definition, symptoms, diagnosis, and treatment. Bang, copy and paste, toggle, done. And to review that, I'll just almost imagine I'm teaching it to a teddy bear or something, and that'll take 2 minutes, so I won't remember that much. So to actually do this process for one condition probably can take 5 minutes. And I think doing it quickly like that and then doing it multiple times is what's helpful for me. So as I mentioned last video, one thing when you're doing active recall and spaced repetition is it should be hard. And it is an effort to try and teach and remember these things. And practice questions are often tricky. I don't get 100% on the practice questions, and I get lots wrong. But everything I get wrong goes on the Anki. And because it goes on the Anki, I remember it because I'm diligent with the Anki. So the most important thing is that consistency. Because if you lose the consistency, then you lose the spaced repetition. And then you sort of are on the forgetting curve and it's very hard. So hopefully that summarizes a nice system that incorporates all the techniques from the last video: active recall with the Notion, Anki, and practice questions; spaced repetition, Notion, Anki, practice questions; interleaving with practice questions Anki. And you can do that with Notion as well. You can review, 15 minutes of cardiology, 15 minutes of gastro, 15 minutes of neurosurge. And finally, layering. So you can learn it in blocks. Maybe the initial set of notes on Notion are layer 1, easy basic principle stuff. And then the next time you review it, you can add on the more complex things. And I'd add those on based on sort of curiosity and other things that might be important. And so a day for me might look like 30 minutes of Anki in the morning, 30 to 60 minutes of Notion. Toggles, maybe that's if I'm taking public transport or as soon as I get home or on a lunch break, and then maybe 30 to 60 minutes of practice questions. So really in 1 to 2 hours a day, you've got a system that incorporates everything and has maintenance. But the most important thing for me is it's something I enjoy. I quite like doing practice questions. I find that you get a bit competitive, you play against yourself, and I enjoy that a lot more than just rereading notes I've written before. So to try and recall things and do practice questions, I find has made studying a lot more enjoyable, and that makes it easy for me to do it every day. 83% of people who watch these videos regularly do not subscribe. If you've ever enjoyed my videos, could you please do me a big favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the better the video gets. Have you ever wondered how you can remember random things from your past, but sometimes remembering what you had for breakfast this morning was difficult, or why sometimes you wish you could remember something but you always seem to forget it, like chores? Well, that's what my next video is going to be on. Techniques you can use and reasons why we remember and forget things. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd highly encourage you to check it out. Thanks so much, guys.